Okay, we're almost live. So hey, we're starting right in the middle of a deep dive on SpaceX. We're gonna go through all this stuff, but just as I'm reading it here, um, we're talking about SpaceX's capacity to land a BFR. One of my favorite things about the Everyday Astronaut, by the way, who just did a huge thing comparing the SLS to SpaceX launch programs, is that he still calls it a BFR as well. So I feel entirely vindicated in the fact that I'm never going to call it anything else. I don't care what you call it. I'm calling it a big fucking rocket because it is.
Yep. Hang on a sec. Hey, Donna, do you mind turning on the air, closing the door? Because it's going to get a little warm in here. Thank you, ma'am. Laugh track. Putting laugh track to work.
Right? So, okay. So he wrote that the guy criticizing it said the propulsion system is notably complex and comprised of likewise complex individual systems that have not yet been developed. That's actually not true. If you can, as long as, and these pressure tests I think are the biggest thing, right?
Right.
If you can fly a water tank the size of a small apartment building on one Raptor engine, gimbaled, and do a successful hop test, you know, like I think all the technology and math behind all that stuff has kind of already been done. So like and it completely ignores the capacity for iteration. You know, in the time that SpaceX has built all of its rocket engines and every test iteration, like I think they're on 4 test iterations, 5 if you include the hopper. That was before SLS could actually field one rocket in 10 years. So they literally they build and test more in 1 month than SLS did in about 7 or 8 years.
Right.
Which is completely and totally mental. So I kind of feel like that sort of ignores that. What we were really interested though, for those of you not having your eyes glass over, is the fact that like SpaceX landing a BFR on the moon with like full propulsion going down is going to spit up a lot of stuff. And taking off, it might do the same thing. So that's sort of what we thought was going to be the issue.
Yeah. Hang on. This is the concept for the SpaceX lunar landing rig.
Yes.
If you notice, if you zoom way in on the lower portion,
that's a person.
That's a person. That's two astronauts standing at the base of the rocket.
So adorable.
And there's two rovers, right? Like HAB style rovers, pressurized rovers, one in the top and another one down here. But that's the idea that they're going with, which is fucking amazing to me.
So cool,
it's
man.
Like it's Bugs Bunny style, landing a rocket on its ass on the moon. That's I hope that works. I mean, I hope that's where we end up, because I think that's the coolest possible
it really is
development. Dave Meyer says you're forgetting to factor in element 115. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah. Oh, that's isn't that the Marvin the Martian thing? Is that a Marvin the Martian thing? I'm fucking confused. I don't really know.
Greetings, puny earthlings. Yes, Earth is obstructing my view of Venus. Fred saying, I didn't know that was possible. I mean, we're going to find out. The kicking up regolith thing that's a major concern. They're going to kick up a whole bunch of surface stuff into the,
unless again
zero atmosphere, low gravity environment of the moon, unless
unless you can actually bring it in to within, say, 500 yards and use top thrusters to bring it in. Like if you can get more or less stopped, the acceleration is not that much, right? You should be able to use those, like, the stuff they had on the Dragon capsule that's basically going outwards and down or whatever. They have a picture of that in that article, actually, Greg, if you want to pull that up. It's sort of intimating that
that was in the Spaceflight Now article.
Yes, yeah, towards the top.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just drop the link in the comments here before we go that far. Oh, Michael Sylvester, the B-32 modulator is what you're thinking of from Marvin the Martian.
You're probably right.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Okay, there's the Spaceflight Now link, and let's see if I can get that that picture.
They don't even mention it.
That's a separate article. I don't know if I want to click away, but
it is actually the second picture down. It really does look like that's exactly what the
Oh, there
planet
it
is.
is. Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm going to share that real quick. That kind of seems to show it using those the thrusters near the top. Is that what you're talking about right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you could do that going into landing, what's to say you can do that for the hop to take off, right?
Right, just get it up far enough from the lunar surface and then engage the engines.
Hey Greg.
Yes, sir.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Yes, we've erected a launch gantry. Yeah. A friend says, so I just finished a Facebook debate on the idea that atheists are incapable of compassion. Yes, as it turns out, we are. It was on the resurgent.us page. Extraordinary. Yeah, no, we're not. No, we're not. As a compassionate atheist, I can tell you that's absolutely not true.
If they were truly compassionate religious people, they could have asked and had the compassion to hear the answer.
Yeah, there you go. Incapable of compassion, really.
Yeah, that's. I mean, adorable people will be adorable.
Yeah, the Penn Jillette argument is my favorite. When people say, "Well, religion is the only thing that keeps people from committing rape and murder," and Penn says, "No, I commit exactly as much rape and murder as I want."
Was it Penn that said that, or fucking what's his face? Because he said it, he probably just borrowed it, but
probably.
Ricky Gervais he's got a show on Netflix.
Yeah,
where his wife dies. He's like, no, I murder exactly the number of people that I want.
Yep. Yeah, that show is dark but beautiful.
That's exactly it. I started watching the second season again, and it's freaking. It is an intensely deep and dark and beautiful way to talk about atheism. It's like the one time when anyone would be sort of reasonably like where you'd want to find just solace or whatever in whatever freaking astrology, religion, whatever. And he's like, nope. It's like God is dead and so is my wife, and that sucks. But at the same time, it's mired in the darkest depression you can imagine. It's just one tiny, beautiful human moment after another.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Fred says, I made the case that we are more compassionate because we believe there is only one life. Enjoy this one. See, that's exactly my philosophy on this. This is not a rehearsal. This is not earning my place in a second life. This is all I have. So yeah, I want to do as much good as I can for myself and those around me in this life. No do-overs. I'm not afraid of punishment or seeking reward. So I think that makes my compassion for other human beings more poignant, because I'm not trying to earn something or keep from being punished in hellfire. I just think it's the right thing to do, and I think that independent of my religious upbringing. So, and further, as a recovering Catholic, let me say, we were taught, well, we have to suffer, and if we ever feel bad about suffering, we have to remember that Jesus suffered more. Okay, so it's a contest to see who can suffer more. Really? It's okay that people suffer because Jesus suffered? That's like saying, I don't want anybody to have their college debt forgiven because mine wasn't. It's the same kind of thinking to me.
Didn't Pan suffer a lot more?
Who?
The god Pan, who stole fire from the gods. They strapped him to a rock and a bird ate his liver over and over again.
No, that was not the god Pan. That was Prometheus, a human.
Yeah. What? Oh, was Prometheus human or demigod?
No, human. I'm pretty sure. Maybe demigod. I don't know.
Either way.
Anyway,
he suffered more than Jesus.
Yeah. I also like the idea of people who say you don't believe in God, and I'll ask them, well, do you believe in the ancient Egyptian gods? No. Do you believe in the Phoenician gods? No. Well, I just believe in one less God than you. So that's.
I mean, that's the thing about arguing with religious people. That collection of just the few arguments that you've espoused so far are devastating if you also believe in logic. And if you don't believe in logic, because you haven't changed any of their minds, right?
Right.
You're literally just like whistling past the universe because it doesn't matter. Like there's literally no point in arguing with them because they don't have the capacity to be changed. Like they value not changing. That's the whole point of faith. The whole point of faith is that you value believing in nonsense, and that's the point. It's reinforced everywhere in the book, everywhere in their culture, like everywhere. The less that you think, and the more that you allow this non-deductive reasoning or faith to take hold, the better. And so they're never arguing with them is pointless.
I think that there's a central problem with the argument that you just made, and it's this: you're painting everyone with any kind of religious faith with that brush, and I disagree with that. Or
no, I said arguing with them. I mean that
okay. Or the Vatican would not have an office of astronomy, and they do, right? So some religious subsets universally have the issue that you're talking about, but not all of them.
So you know, anyone arguing that atheists don't have compassion would fit into my
I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Like and again, like even arguing with like if you're arguing with anyone about the existence of God, that's right. By definition you're going to fail,
right?
Because they've been constantly reinforced to the fact that we get that the spaghetti monster behind the moon is exactly as visible as our God, but we believe in this one, and nothing you can do is ever going to change that. So like, oh cool, 2 + 2 = 4, and you don't give a shit. Awesome. Like that's right. You know, like it just doesn't matter.
I got you. Bubbleviz asks a good question. Do you subscribe to Musk's idea to not have all your eggs in one basket as far as multiplanetary human life? Yeah, 100%. I think that's our only path forward. You know, we know at one point humanity bottlenecked down to maybe less than 1,000 individual human beings. And if that were to happen, you know, if that had been slightly worse, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So having multiple planets to base our existence on is a really good idea. But the one thing that Kim Stanley Robinson makes clear in the Red Mars series that really I glommed onto, and I say it a lot, is Mars is not a lifeboat. We're not all going to be able to leave this planet to go to any new planet. So we also need to be thinking about fixing this planet. It needs to remain habitable for the foreseeable future, for the next 500 years, because it would take us that long to have a safely established network of habitable planets or moons. Or it's
probably going to take more than that. But yeah, also like the likelihood that Earth can become uninhabitable in 500 years is pretty low. Not impossible, but pretty low.
Well, but it may become unsustainable for the number of human beings on it.
Oh yes, yeah,
right. That's you know, without a massive dieback, we are definitely on a trajectory that's going to make it uninhabitable for us, and not changing that trajectory is deeply irresponsible and stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like sinking the Titanic on purpose because there are lifeboats. There are not nearly enough lifeboats, so sinking the Titanic is a bad idea. So
I constantly go back to like the number of times that, you know, because I've been a rocket ship fan for a long time, and there's always people that are like, how dare you, there are people starving, how could you be building rockets? And it's not that I'm not sympathetic to that. I think that is an entire valid argument, but the ROI for culture, society, technology from these programs tends to be just massive, like 10 to 1, 100 to 1, whatever it is, right? Every dollar spent on R&D or on the NASA program or whatever has redounded far more to the culture as a whole. And I think the same thing is going to happen for climate science when we start terraforming, right? When we start figuring out how to terraform at scale, well, then we can bring that back. Like, you know, the people coming over to America politically and philosophically get out from underneath the legacy systems in Europe and change the entire world, right? They end up exporting that governance model to the rest of the world. And I think that there's an opportunity for not only with governance, but with environmental capacity and scaling and you know, well, even just changing the way we think of economics of scale. I think there's some really interesting opportunities. Because I think even with all the hardships on Mars, I think they're going to very quickly outstrip us for a lot of reasons. Maybe in a couple hundred years. Sorry.
All right. Yeah. Two people just brought up a thing called the Georgia Guidestones, and Andy Beals brought that up, and I got Georgia Guidestones are a granite monument erected in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia, of all places. A set of 10 guidelines is inscribed on the structure in 8 modern languages, and a shorter message is inscribed at the top. Pretty cool. Okay. The inscriptions are: maintain humanity at under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, unite humanity with a living new language, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court, avoid petty laws and useless officials. Boy, that would be trouble. Balance personal rights and social duties, prize truth, beauty, and love, seeking harmony with the infinite, be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature, and leave room for nature, leave room for nature. It's repeated twice. I don't know why, but yeah, that's a pretty cool set of guidelines. I'm down with most of those.
Yeah.
There's the link. Hey, non-religious belief set that would actually make humanity better.
It would.
Although we're learning that the overpopulation thing now is beginning to look like it's not going to play out. Like it's pretty mythical. Populations are actually, birth rates are actually falling in a lot of places.
So, well, every industrialized nation, and incidentally everywhere where they're educating young girls.
And some non-first world countries are seeing the same thing. Like India, if I'm not mistaken, India is seeing a fall in birth rates, which is shocking because we always figured they would be, like an eternal bloom, and they're not. They're actually, guess why? Educating little girls.
Yep. So
cool stuff.
Indeed.
Yes.
The 500 million thing is well, interestingly enough, like if life extension technology were to happen the way that I think it could within the realm of physics, that's not impossible. And if I don't know, if anyone watching The Expanse or reading The Expanse novels, it gets to the point where thousands of gates open to thousands of potentially mostly habitable planets.
Right.
And, basically you just see a mass exodus. Like anybody who's poor is like, fuck it, I'm going to go and just steal a planet and do what I want to do.
Well, and that's how we got here, meaning North America.
Yep.
Maybe the difference is that we had to steal it from the people that already existed. And slaughter all of them to make it habitable. But the thing you talked about where, shame on us for building rockets while people are starving. Okay. If we held to your belief in the 1400s and 1500s, we'd all be standing 20 deep on the shores of Europe, right? If European countries had waited to solve all their problems before sending out explorers and colonial groups, things were bad then too. And I like to remind people that we went to the moon in a moment when we were bombing the shit out of a third world country on a daily and ongoing basis. And we were probably more fractured as a people in the United States than we are now in that moment. So we can do great and hopeful things in spite of our shittiness. And I think we should do those things in spite of our shittiness. There's a new Radiolab podcast up this week. It's basically about artifacts of the Armageddon age. A guy found an ID card that belonged to somebody from the NSA on the street. So somebody had dropped it, and he handed it off to a friend of his who was a journalist. And on the back of it are 2 printed sets of instructions. One is directions from his home to his office, and the other longer set doesn't say where it's going, but he went home and on Google Maps, he started following it. It leads to this really remote facility out in the middle of the woods in Georgia near the Blue Ridge. And it was, if you can't get to your office, if your office is destroyed in a nuclear holocaust, you need to go to this place. And it was basically part of a much bigger civil defense plan for preserving America in the event of an apocalypse. And one of the things they did in the podcast is they asked a whole bunch of people, what's one thing that you would like us to preserve as a cultural marker? Like, what are some things you think we should be able to look, take forward with us and say, that was the best of America? And some of them were really esoteric and weird. Almost every single person of the 100 people that they asked this question, many of them were just listeners, not famous people or thinkers necessarily. Almost all of them referenced something related to the to the lunar program, to the Apollo program. Almost all of them said that our finest moment was going to the moon. And I thought that was really extraordinary that average people, identified that as maybe our high watermark, maybe our best moment as a country. So, and it happened right in the middle of all that other hatred and turmoil and, and terroristic death and Kent State and everything else that was going on in that moment. So Yeah,
Yeah,
that Radio Lab
that-
podcast is worth a
I'm
listen.
definitely gonna listen to that. Yeah, I was thinking about the Kent State stuff yesterday, and The Handmaid's Tale. Not to take this in a depressing, non-sciencey direction, but seeing those fucking clowns in Michigan,
Yeah,
like that. I mean, that could go south so fast. like, yeah, that's just dumb.
I'm actually gonna drop a link to the Atomic Artifacts podcast right here in the thread.
Yes, please.
It's worth listening to the things people thought were worth preserving. One of them was Mahalia Jackson singing the Lord's Prayer at the 1958 Monterey Jazz Festival, and that really is a good one. That was like a, yeah. Oh boy, we missed a lot of comments there.
Yeah.
Sylvester, here's the thing: no one has to argue. Period. Whatever brings you to the place of compassion and empathy and kindness and generosity, so be it. Therefore, I'm just eliminating the middleman. I don't want to have to negotiate with Jesus about what I should be compassionate about.
I think Andrew Beal's spoilers, dude, was probably about The Expanse. If you haven't seen The Expanse already, that's on you. I've been ranting about it for Chex Watch years.
But even that requires a little bit of magic, right? There's a little bit of magical thinking in this gate being found at the outer edge of the solar system that leads to all those.
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
No. Here, so let me put it this way. I mean, yes, that's magical thinking, but it's only about trying to figure out. Like, I'm not suggesting that would happen, right?
Right.
What I am suggesting is that the diaspora is inevitable,
right,
if we keep going, right? And 6 years ago, landing a rocket on its ass was utterly impossible. You were an idiot for thinking it, right?
And now we don't even tune in every time.
Exactly. Right. And that's like fucking 5 years later, right? Like it's completely insane. Within the next 20 years, the Albuquerque drive might exist.
Right.
And then 10 years after that, going to the next star will be normal.
Hey, Ginny, I'm gonna throw a link up to that right now. Ginny, but we can see the satellite chain tonight in Central Florida. Yeah, I'm gonna link. This is the coolest link anybody has sent me in weeks. In fact, I'm gonna not just share the link. I'm gonna screen share it, because when you go to this page that I'm going to link to, you can allow it to use Google Maps to find your location, and it will show you the street view of your house and where to look from that view to see satellites and what time they're going over. It's absolutely freaking amazing. So tonight, about 8:37 p.m. from here in Port Richey, I'm going to get to see a string of pearls like formation of Starlink satellites go across the night sky from northwest to southeast. And also, while that's happening, a lower set of them are actually going to cross the sky from southwest to northeast. It's the craziest thing. So I'm going to share that screen right now to show you what the page looks like and the animation. There you go. Can you see that, Corey?
Yes.
On the right half of the screen is the names of the individual Starlinks going over, and that's the view from that's my car in the bottom right. That's my car in the driveway in the bottom right. So that's what it's going to look like from my house tonight at 8:37 p.m. How cool is that?
That's tight.
Right. And then I think if I click this one, there's another set going over at 8:47 p.m. And those are much more spaced out, right? Because they've been up there longer.
I was gonna say, like, how are they? They must be using the like super low impulse ion drives to spread them out.
I don't know. I think they gave them one pulse when they first launched them, so that they would begin very slowly to spread out over time. I think that was the if I remember the plan correctly. But anyway, is this the greatest web tool you have ever seen for how to find satellites in your night sky, or what?
That's pretty tight.
Yeah, I'm liking that. So I can't wait till tonight. I'm going to step outside and see this amazing stuff. So thank you. Ginny Rippert shared that with me, and that was the coolest share. I saw it about 11:30 last night. I was like, holy shit. That is so cool. Yeah, I know there are phone apps that you can see what time a satellite's going over in what direction, but I've never seen anything that imprints it over your actual Google Street View to show you which way you need to look and what it's going to look like.
So Fred asked a super fun question. How are we getting to another star without getting beyond the speed of light? So this Mexican physicist dude named Albuquerque creates a paper around a conceptual warp drive, basically, right? And we read it. We were actually covering it a few years ago because it came out. It sort of came out around the same time as the EM drive, and it's like, everybody's super fascinated with it, but it can't be that interesting, right? And long story short, it expands space behind it and compresses it in front of it, and essentially rides that compressed wave. And so the ship itself doesn't move; it just moves space around it, like you do.
Well, like in normal physics, right? That's how a wing works is by creating a low pressure system above the wing as the air. The speed of air travel over the top surface and bottom surface are different, creates a low pressure zone, and the wing basically falls into that low pressure system. That's what we're talking about, except
but you're effectively using space-time itself, which is interesting. The coolest thing about this guy's paper is that it got peer reviewed, and all the people peer reviewing it, trying to murder it, basically were like, nope, this checks out. And that's when we were like, wait, what? And a couple of years ago, somebody actually, and it basically, just for the record, the as constructed by Albuquerque himself, he said you'd have to basically deconstruct the entire mass of Jupiter energy-wise to make that happen. Which I don't know if that's hard to do. It's hard. That's hard to both do that and then put it into a box. Just if anyone's paying attention. But somebody actually came in and rejiggered the math and physics behind it, and basically put that down by 2 orders of magnitude. So you would still need like a 0 point energy, like something sucking energy out of space-time itself, which again is also theoretically possible to do it. But it's again, like, we're getting into the realm of showing that the physics behind this stuff can actually be made plausible. Bulvis doesn't believe in Einsteinian space-time, but he also believes in God. So honestly, who gives a shit what he thinks?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I like the idea that, and this actually, it was the head of the Vatican's astronomy office that said this in an interview with Bill Maher. Bill Maher's movie Religiousness, or Ridiculous, what was it called?
Religulous.
Was really good. Like, he went and interviewed a whole bunch of people in the field of theology, and some of them were ridiculous, some of them were amazing. And the head of the astronomy department at the Vatican basically said, well, God lives in all the places that science can't explain. And that's a pretty good equation, right? The thing is that we can explain more and more and more and more and more at an accelerating rate from 500 years ago to now, let's just say. And so, like, these things that we're saying, well, that'll never happen because Einsteinian space-time, blah, blah, but we're learning so much new that, like, 400 years ago, if you said one day people will travel across the surface of the earth in aircraft that float in the heavens, you'd have been burned as a witch, right? But we know that that's a thing that can actually happen. So we'll know more 20 years from now than we know now, and a lot more than we knew 50 years ago about the nature of space-time. And I think that's going to, like, then the engineers come on board. Once there's some theoretical framework for these things, then engineers start talking about how to make things happen. We can now teleport atomic information from one place to another across 14 to 20 kilometers of distance, and have a particle in the same place in 2 places at once. So that's something we didn't even think could happen 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even 20 years ago, I would highly recommend checking out, and this, it was kind of about the singularity, but the Wait But Why blog,
yeah,
had a big thing about the exponential advancement of technology. And was it, I can't remember the metric, but it was basically like the number of years that you could go without dying because technology was so much crazier that you would just pass out and die.
Right.
It's like, I can't believe, like, his metric was really clever. Bubbaviz really wants me to talk about artificial wombs. I'm all for it. Make it happen.
Yes, throw us a link there, Bubbaviz, so we can read up on that. It's interesting. Ginny makes a good point, and Michael Silvestri too. Corey, play nice.
Yes,
Ginny says some people need religion.
Yes.
Doesn't make them less, just that they need more than they can achieve alone.
Can I say something really?
People who hide behind it that you should be concerned about.
Honestly, like, if your belief in God limits your capacity to understand the world, it has made you less at understanding the world. Right now, are you less of a human being and person deserving of love and compassion and awesomeness? No. So I should still play nice. But there are logical trade-offs that are real. And as someone who is damn near desperately trying to understand the universe as it is around him, people, quite frankly, that are like Einstein space isn't real are relegated instantaneously to a pocket in my mind of people I don't have to listen to because they're not interesting.
See, no, I'm gonna side with Bubbleviz on this one, because while it may prove out that Einsteinian space-time is not is rickety, that it isn't everything we hoped it would be as far as an explanation for things, all modern thought that it may be significantly different from Einstein's work is based on Einstein's work. In other words, that's the best understanding possible right this minute. That doesn't mean that it's invalid. It just means that we're going to learn more, and we're going to find,
right. You might find something deeper, but it is real, right?
Yeah, with that I agree.
Like, you can't say Einsteinian space isn't real. They've tested it. It's accurate. It's not even a question, right? You might as well be saying like, no, God made my toast this morning. It doesn't fucking matter. It's not real, right? Like so that's what I mean when I'm talking about that. Like if you're going to be watching YouTube videos from fringe people like us, for example, instead of understanding why the science is at where it's at and understanding how it has managed to get built up to that, the actual studies and experiments that show Einsteinian space is absolutely accurate, from theoretical physics down to a number of different experiments that all prove that it's real, and then you just say, I just don't believe in it. Me personally, I'm not saying everyone else should do this, but for me personally, anyone espousing that idea has become instantaneously not interesting to me.
Right.
Just, and then also like, well, I believe in God. Well, there's a high correlation between people that believe in a myth as if it was real and people that don't understand how to process scientific fact.
Right. So I'm not sure what Michelle's apologizing for. Sorry, I was trying to help. I don't know if I missed something up thread there. Sorry about that. It's entirely possible because the comments kind of fly by us here, and that's difficult. Now, okay. So Bubbleviz brings up an interesting question, though, Corey. God is making a comeback via the universe as a simulation thought.
No.
If it's a simulation, it has to have been created, correct?
Maybe, but that doesn't mean God, and it certainly doesn't mean God.
Practically speaking,
no, because if you ask anybody who believes in God, do they think that God can act in their lives right now? Yes.
Yes.
That is not. That doesn't comport with simulation theory in any way. Simulation theory dictates, and only dictates, that it's possible that the primary conditions of a simulation were set up at the Big Bang or before, right? Like the whole entire multiverse might be a simulation, and then it's carrying out and extrapolating based on the primary rule set, because we have never once seen a situation where the actual rules of the game are being affected by something outside of the simulation as if it was being
How would we know and recognize that?
All the rules are all the physics doesn't change.
No, there have been some interesting things, like the difference in background radiation temperature and the speed of expansion changed, and nobody's quite sure why.
Nobody's quite sure why. So you're saying that God lives in the space that you don't understand yet. That's all. That's the same argument, right?
Yeah.
Like you're looking at an argument saying somebody shifted the simulation. That's ridiculous, because what we're going to find out is there is a pretty reasonable answer to that, and we don't know what it is. Like, people have been making that same argument, whether it's God or the simulation, for all time, and it's always been wrong. It's like, just for context, the 1,000 times that argument has been made, it has been right exactly 0 times.
So you're watching the #Coffee Religion show here on the Soul Logo Live Network on YouTube. Nice to be with you this morning. Yeah, I'll get to the search term. Maybe not today. We got a few other things on our plate. today. But I didn't realize, I didn't remember that people couldn't just throw links into our comments. That's probably a good thing. Yeah, I see. Like, and I'm open to the idea that our human nature helps us with this view. Dave Meyer says, in simulation theory, the programmer of the simulation could be seen as God. And it's we imprint even our daily tech speak about our current world. You know, gods of the internet, like, or, you know, he's a programming god, right? He creates worlds. SimCity, Minecraft. These are all examples of world creation programming that's done at a, you know, basically a building block elementary level. But we tend to see God because that's the context that we've all sort of learned for how to describe the creator of something.
Yeah.
All right. So we
And
can
I mean,
get caught up in it too.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I'm sort of intellectually brutal about these things, because again, like, the simulation theory is something that I'm paying a lot of attention to.
Right.
But I'm trying to make sure that I don't make the same failed arguments that have been made since, you know, the beginning of time between people that want to have imaginary mythical thinking and people that don't.
Right. Fred Eater, if the universe is a simulation, what difference does it make? I have to live in it. I can't change it. I'm going to smoke a bowl and go on living. I think that is probably the healthiest philosophy I've read all day.
Right. When I first started talking about the simulation, people got really, really freaked out. I'm like, well, beer still tastes like beer, and, you know, good music is still good music. It honestly, like, for our lives, it's not really going to matter that much unless they turn it off.
Right. Right. Woo. Interesting.
Yeah. If by dogmatic, so apparently I'm dogmatic. If by dogmatic we mean I'm dedicated wholeheartedly to facts and evidence, you're absolutely right, and I don't apologize for it. And yeah, like, I honestly believe that everyone has the capacity to believe whatever they want to believe. I really do. I don't, you know, but I will dismiss it out of hand for myself.
Andrew Peels, your Sims demand a sports ball stadium. They're rioting down there because no one's picked up the garbage in a week. Get busy.
Yeah.
Here's a tornado. you whiny sons of bitches. Here's an earthquake.
A tornado.
Here's a giant robot monster. I loved SimCity. The SimCity games were some of my favorite things.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oof, sorry about that. Boxer Cat says, you know that Twilight Zone episode with the broken glasses? That's the current prescription. That's me. Current prescription broken, unwearable. Prescription to go, 2 prescriptions ago, unfindable without glasses. Oh, crap. Finally got all the time you need to read books and broke your glasses. That's not good. That's why I don't wear mine. I don't want to wear the prescription out.
Yeah, Bubba said, I'm very open-minded, Corey. Maybe that's the reason I came to nationalism. So you're so open-minded that somebody poured dog shit into it, and you're like, cool.
Oh.
You can be too open-minded. Yeah, honestly, I think that's actually a huge problem. Not only are people suffering from a massive inability to understand epistemological problems, you know, how we know things and what do we actually know, and Bubble has problems with that. But then likes to be open-minded, and I hear that a lot about people that watch stupid shit on YouTube and suddenly think that they've got and a good example is the video of those 2 doctors that came out, right? They basically started coming out and saying, hey, you know, this isn't as bad as we think, and it's just the flu, and yada yada yada, and people are really, really open-minded, and so they listen to that and they think, oh, well, that must be the case, right? It takes 5 seconds to Google it to find out that it's dog shit, but they don't do that. Right. So somebody watches some video on YouTube about fucking Einsteinian physics isn't real. I'm like, oh, well, that must be true. And you think you're cool because you suddenly believe something that nobody else believes. Well, you're wrong. Yeah. Right. You're open-minded enough that a dog walked up and shit in your brain. And that's just
kind of being a dick today. You know this, right?
I'm sick of it, dude. Like, how many people have to die right now? And it's exactly why. Because people are fucking stupid. It's frustrating.
Yeah, that's a lack of critical thinking that isn't necessarily related to religion. It often is, but it is not necessarily
perfectly correlated with people who are religious.
I don't think that's true.
No, I didn't say everyone who is religious is necessarily that way. But I mean, almost every single time those 2 things exist in the same brain because they're the same thing. Now, can people who are part of organized religions be really, really good people? Obviously, yes. I would just like the thinking to get better, please.
Okay. Well, that got weird. That got a little difficult.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Genetics researchers, Dave. Genetics researchers explain why dogs are very good boys. I want to link to that article because I thought it was pretty funny. Essentially, their findings are that dogs have evolved to be liked by us, to be loved by us, to be cared for by us, because it's good for them, and that's why they're good boys. Yeah. Recent work is providing a possible molecular mechanism that influences social behavior, e.g., friendliness. By analyzing DNA samples taken from a variety of dogs and wolves, Von Holt and Monique Udell, a scientist from Oregon State University who studies animal cognition and collaborated on this research project, identified 4 mutations that seemed to influence social behavior in those dogs. In particular, they found mutations on a gene called WBSCR17, which Von Holt says she studied back when she was working on her doctoral thesis, and 2 transcription factor genes. We found that these mutations were frequent in many populations and breeds, possibly suggesting their role in personality variation. So that's kind of cool. They're finding some genetic markers that explain why we love dogs. Corey, have you made a Starship Enterprise suit for Rhodey yet?
I haven't yet, but considering
God
the fact
damn it.
that our friendship depends on whether or not I do
I
it,
mean-
it is on the drawing board.
Maybe you make a big Borg cube for Brian.
That's fucking funny. That basically resembles every Halloween sort of costume that I ever had in Yellowknife. Because by the time October 31st rolled around,
Right.
or whenever, it was always very, very snowy. So you had to wear all your gear, and so the only thing you could really ever be is a giant robot. So I wore boxes constantly.
Oh, Jareen says bad news here. All but 2 of our city councilors struck down mandatory masks last night. And the councilor who donated a kidney was crushed, right? You're not just keeping yourself safe, dickheads. You're keeping other people safe, including, like I mentioned Wednesday, our friend Daylina Miller, a journalist who's out working every day, and she has 1 kidney. If she gets sick, it's really, 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 really bad. Yeah, I had a friend that had to go for an immune system treatment this week, and when she gets there, she's having a chat with the nurse. The nurse is moonlighting at a grocery store. Come on, man. She works with immunocompromised patients, and she's moonlighting at a grocery store. That can't work out well. Rachel Maddow did an interesting piece last night about jails and nursing homes. In Kansas State, where they had the riot last week, the jail there, that they had people riot because they weren't getting any kind of hand sanitizer or face masks. Something like 75 staffers in that jail are now out and down sick with coronavirus. And they tested everybody in the jail. 94% of the population of this jail, 94% are positive for coronavirus.
This is dark, but I want to start seeing a lot of study focus being done on jails, because they're like the what happens if you don't do anything, right? So we could really get some extrapolative numbers on, okay, so 94% of people test positive. What are the numbers like? Because if that's a population of 1,000 to 10,000 people, whatever it is, right? Like, I don't know how many people are in the jail.
Yeah.
That could give us some really, really good insights as to what the actual numbers are.
Right.
And again, it's going to be dark, it's going to be dead people, but at the same time, that'll potentially give us accurate numbers for exactly what is coming forward. And what's even darker is we're going to find out, because they're not letting these people out of jail, presumably, especially that jail, right? If they're all still in that jail, we're going to find out how well the antibodies work.
Real fast.
And all of this is deeply, deeply freaking Nazi level immoral. It should never have come to this.
Yeah. The other case you mentioned was a nursing home where they had 103 total patients. They thought they had 1 case, and they tested everybody in the nursing home. They had 67 cases in the nursing home. So more than half of Maryland's deaths, more than half of Pennsylvania's deaths are in nursing homes.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to find out that's a lot worse than we had hoped.
A lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Ginny reminds me she was probably working there prior to the event. # underpaid. Probably true. But I mean, you know, the judgment call of working with immunocompromised patients while you're working in a grocery store. It just seems like a bad medical clinical decision. Jareen says we were very scared for our jail system. Oklahoma has the highest incarceration rate in the world and more women than anywhere. A ton of folks are in because they can't pay the fines. That's money bail. Like we're going to have a whole lot of other ancillary conversations after this about who we put in jail and why and for how long. We're going to have to find another way. You know, there are people in jail awaiting trial who are not convicted of any crime. And when people say, oh, we shouldn't let them out, they've done something wrong. We don't know that yet. For everybody that's not been to trial yet, nope. The assumption is that you're innocent until proven guilty. And so we're killing people in jail who have not maybe committed a crime. That's not okay. We have a
or even just locally, for being the crime of being poor, right? If you can't pay the fines and suddenly you're in, like how much of that is there, right?
Yeah, people in Pasco County Jail are not allowed to vote. They won't let us bring a voting machine into the county jail. I find that fascinating. We're going to have a lot of conversations about how we do things.
Agreed.
That's the broadest stupid understatement I've made all day.
Well, I mean, at least you're making understatements as opposed to just attacking whole swaths of the population, unlike some people. Me. Right. Yeah, Boa said 94% positive, good place to see if they can get corona a second time. That's what I was talking about with the antibodies. Not only like our reinfections going to happen, but we want to find out how bad it is, what kind of benefits having the antibodies give to a whole population. I mean, these are things that we're going to need to know, right? And if you have a sequestered populations, you're going to be able to do that. But like the whole idea that we have sequestered populations that we could run tests on, it's dark and problematic.
Yeah. Deb makes a great point. Why aren't we hearing about positive rates of kids in cages? Because they've completely sealed off any public oversight or observation of what those kids are going through. And I'm 100%. Sure we're going to find out that many of them are sick and or dying.
Oh, wow. Sherry said, speaking of my friends in Pennsylvania, it's being assumed that the students won't be going back to school in the fall.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Sherry, I haven't seen any of that stuff. She said it's gross, some of the things being said about PA Secretary of Health. If it's anything like what the dummies are saying about the governor of Michigan, I can only imagine. But if you want to send us some links, I'll take a look at that stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
Bubba was saying it could be voluntary. People that are stuck in jails getting infected coronavirus aren't doing it voluntarily. I might be missing what you're talking about.
I think it was talking about the idea of doing a broad plan study of people in jail to see about,
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they are there and they can't get out is by nature involuntary, right? Now, like being part of a study, you could do that voluntarily, but it's not really going to be super awesome for the 1 to 5% of people that are just going to be dead.
Yeah. Because I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a really complicated history with using people in prisons and jails as test subjects. We've done some really shitty things to human beings in the name of scientific research that way. And so we are really sensitive to it. I don't know if that's a universally known or experienced thing in other countries, but we have a really bad history of not treating patients with syphilis to see what happened. There are several big cases that happened in the United States in that regard, mostly concerning African Americans who were in jail or in research systems, and we want to change that about our country. We want to make sure that we don't end up there again. So that's why you're kind of experiencing some pushback on that idea. Yeah. Trading time off in your sentence for test subjects is not a choice. That's we're really sensitive to that. So we want to make sure that we don't. We want our people in prisons here to be treated more humanely, not less humanely.
Right. Like the whole idea is, as this pandemic was ramping up, if you had gone to prison populations and said, "Hey, listen, do you want to stay here and be part of this thing where like 1% of you are going to die?" That's giving them a choice.
Right.
They were never given that choice.
Right.
Right.
And people, by the way, people did yell and scream here when some states let people out of jail at the beginning of this, understanding that when if they're too cramped and too crowded, more people are going to die. So some states and some individual jails and prisons made the decision to reduce the inside population. And I'm really glad they did. People that were yelling and screaming about that are the same Law and Order. They shouldn't have done anything wrong. People that always pipe up when black people protest with guns at a state capitol, but not when white people do. So
yeah, honestly, I kind of feel like the Black Lives Matter movement needs to really just buy more guns.
The reason we have assault weapons laws at all in this country is because in the 60s, the Black Panthers started showing up at the California state capitol with guns. And that's when they put all the laws in place about semi-automatic and automatic firearms.
So, like,
but it was black people. We got, we had to be scared of that.
Like how, maybe that's like the anti-gun movement is really just doing everything wrong. Like what you really need to be doing is just buy more guns to the right people.
Yeah.
I'm just making terrible arguments today. Like that's just everything I'm saying is just dark and shitty. Remember when we were talking about rockets and it was fun?
It's a dark and shitty time.
It is. I'm kind of in it, and sorry if that's mean or perceived that way to some people.
Yeah. So what are you doing with the rest of your day today? What's going on?
I don't know. I think we're traveling today. I think we have to go back to Tampa again. Which I am not excited about. I kind of don't. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but we might be doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, this is the end of my planned activities for Friday.
Nice. Nice.
So I'm gonna get done. Think about what I'm gonna cook for dinner tonight. Bake the cake I didn't bake the other day. Lifetrack's still mad at me. See, she's still mad at me because I didn't bake a cake the other day when I said I was going. So we'll try and get on that today, I think.
You did. You were talking about baking a cake like 2 days ago.
Yep. I just didn't get to it.
How dare you?
I know, right? I had a nap instead.
See, naps are good.
Naps are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, why don't we wrap this up and get on with our weekend?
Sorry, Mom, I didn't mean Tampa. I just meant home. I just say Tampa sometimes because it's
right
where we live.
Gonna make some homemade crispy chicken sandwiches today. All right, Jareen. That sounds good.
Nice.
That sounds good.
Yeah, Fritz said I'm in agreement with your arguments, Corey. Perhaps I'm in a dark place too. I should probably smoke a bowl and go record. Yeah, no, I mean, from a logical standpoint, I am not wrong. It's just super uncomfortable for a lot of people to face that fact. And sometimes I am better at being nice about it.
Andy Beals, another prescient comment. Chicken good.
Chicken good. I love that movie. I
disagree with that. Yeah, but we covered that at the top. NASA wants SpaceX to make a moon version of the Starship for them. Yep.
First 20 minutes of the show or 15 minutes of the show, we talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Like it's a good month for space program stuff. We're going to have a launch later this month of our return to manned space flight from the United States. That's happening on the 24th. I'm working on getting a parking pass so we can go over there and watch it in person. Pretty excited about that. It'd be the first launch I've been to since the Hubble repair mission shuttle launch. That's the last one I went to. So that's like, God, 93, 94, before my dad passed away, certainly, because that's who I went on the trip with. It would be weird to take my dead dad to a launch.
It would.
Although my mom has his ashes, I could take my dad to a launch.
Yep.
I think he'd appreciate that.
All right. Yeah. I mean,
burn a little ashes on Indian River Lagoon right out there by the launch site. I think he would.
I mean, if I die, I would appreciate that.
Mom did not like my plan for dad's ashes. There's a company that will take your deceased relative's ashes and load them into shotgun shells, so that when you can take your buddy hunting one last time, when you fire your shotgun, some of the ashes get dispersed.
That's a terrible idea.
Why?
Because I don't know.
That's where my dad would want to be, out in the woods,
Okay. All right. No. Okay. All right. All right.
It was the thing we did together. I kind of saw the value of it, but they'll also put your relative in fishing lures. You can you can take your buddy fishing. I thought that was also pretty cool. So, But you
Fair
get,
enough.
you get Uncle Bob hung up in a tree and you can't get him back. That's depressing. So
Jesus.
why the hell not? Wasn't that what Hunter S. Thompson ended up doing? Is had himself loaded into fireworks shells, and they had a huge fireworks launch at his place too.
That sounds familiar, but I
I'm
don't
pretty sure
know
that's what they did with Hunter S.
unequivocally.
Thompson because that's what he wanted. So
Fair enough. I mean,
yeah,
I think it'd be a lot more fun. Okay, Greg. Okay, Greg.
yeah pull.
Will shotgun shells? Shotgun shells won't work on the moon, will they? Because they require air.
Oh no, that's not true because rocket motors work on the moon.
Rocket motors are not
The
gunpowder.
oxidizer in a shotgun shell is internal. It's baked into the gunpowder granules.
Okay, that's what I didn't know. So okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But
okay.
the recoil would be really bad.
Or awesome.
I always thought an air horn on the moon would be a lot of fun. Boost yourself 20, 30 feet in the air.
I mean, well, the air horn's not putting out that much air, but the sound is exciting, or
Yeah.
wouldn't be at all.
No.
No, the sound would be non-existent. Anyway,
they blew my car crazy uncle's ashes out the tailpipe of his race car last summer. Yeah. That's maybe the most Oklahoma thing you've ever said on the show.
yeah, can confirm.
Yep, we took my grandma to the manatees in Crystal River. It was windy, and we ate my grandma that day. I have a really great story about that. Okay,
that's awesome.
Here's the story. My dad worked at a funeral home when he was a young man down in South Florida. He was also getting his pilot's license, and they had a request from a guy that was very wealthy, that was a friend of the funeral home owners, that he wanted his ashes spread over the Atlantic Ocean, like right where you're living. In fact, Corey, North Miami Beach, Hallandale, Hollywood area, right? And so my dad volunteered to take the bag with his ashes up in the plane. And the idea was they were gonna pop the window open a little bit on the aircraft at like 3,000 feet and stick the nose of the bag out into the slipstream and shake the bag, and then the ashes would get sucked into the slipstream out, into the slipstream. And so the guy's wife and a child, the adult child, were in the plane, and James Bender, my dad's flight instructor, was flying the plane, and my dad, because he was the funeral home guy, was sitting in the right front seat. And when he went to put the bag out the window popped open further than it should have, and all of the ashes flew out of the bag into the cockpit of the plane, and were circulating around inside the plane before he could open the door and get all of the ashes sucked out. And so there was this long moment of silence while everybody was patting their clothing, getting the ash off. And Jimmy Bender, the pilot, said, "Dang, I think you got the old boy in my chewing gum." Thanks for listening to my joke, Corey. I really, that was a great
I'm sorry. This was definitely one of those times where I did not listen to you, because there is a Twitter account called We Have Miko, Main Engine Cutoff. I guess SpaceX. I guess SpaceX finished their research for the Space Act agreement to assess engine plume interaction with lunar regolith, and the answer is make a really tall lander and put engines at the top so you don't have any plume interaction.
Right, that's cool. We talked about that earlier. That might be a solution.
And it just comes from that picture. I've been trying to find something official that is what they're planning, but I mean, I think it's sort of safe to assume.
They could also haul a bunch of water up there and make concrete,
right? Or even
landing pad.
Would it just boil off though?
Oop, I lost your audio. I don't know what happened there. Let me
checkity. Can you hear me? I can't hear you now. Oh yeah, you're back. Okay, wouldn't the water just boil off?
I don't know. I'm no lunar.
Well, it's space. The lack of pressure would just have the water boil off.
Yeah. When people I know get cremated, I snort the ashes to gain their knowledge. There you go. Thanks, Dave Myers, for keeping it real for us today. That's always.
Wow.
Yep, the first Hubble service mission was flown on the Endeavour. Yeah, I know I have it written down somewhere, Andy, that I think I bought a mission patch that day from the Gift Store at Kennedy Space Center. But yeah, I was the only two shuttle launches I saw were the Hubble launch and the first Hubble repair mission. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was. I went to both of those with my dad, and my only launch before that was the Apollo Soyuz mission in 1974. 5. I was there for that one. That was pretty cool. That was the last Saturn launch, as a matter of fact. So, yeah. All right. So let's get out of here, man. Let's get on with our day. Let's go forth and bake a cake and drive to Tampa or whatever it is you're doing.
Oh shit. Sometimes I like Twitter a lot.
Yeah.
Not for politics. It's a seething garbage fire for that. But University of Central Florida, an entire study on regolith on the moon.
Huh.
I'll throw the rather short link in the comments.
Nice. Yeah, UCF is a hotbed for NASA related research. A lot of free student time on important projects that way, because it's right down the other end of the John Young Parkway. John Young being the Apollo astronaut and the first shuttle pilot. So that's cool. Sasquatch is real. That's my operating understanding. Anyone else here dates and calculate how old they were in 1974? 5 years old? Yeah, I was 10 years old in 1974. I was born.
I was -1.
Yeah, I saw somebody post today. Suddenly the 70s, 1970 was 50 years ago. I was like, yeah, even worse. I remember that. People who were younger than me were complaining about that. I'm like, I remember 1970. I remember shit that happened. Yeesh. So there's that. There was one other thing I was gonna. Oh, we are 1 month away from the start of hurricane season today. 30 days from the beginning of hurricane season. So that'll be fun.
Good times.
Yep. -5. You whippersnappers. All right, let's get out of here, Corey. Let's wrap it up, buddy.
Okay.
All right. You guys have a great day. We're back on Monday with another #coffee show, which we may or may not talk about complicated, controversial things.
Yep.
I don't know what we're doing. We're doing Church of Reason Sunday morning.
Yeah, but I can't do it in game because I'm not gonna have my computer. But
Womp womp. Okay.
yeah, sorry.
We got to figure out another way to do that. I don't know. I just need a second computer.
I just shouldn't leave my house.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what should happen. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and we will see you back here Monday, 10 o'clock, YouTube, for another #coffee show. That's Corey Cottrell. I'm also Corey Cottrell, according to the caption, but I'm not actually. I'm Greg Smithwick. Sasquatch is real.
God is a lie.
Oh, wait. What did I do? I didn't end the stream.
We're just us staring at each other.